Type 2 diabetes is one of the fastest growing epidemics in America, and as a result, big pharma companies are hoping to make it their latest cash cow. But one of the most popular diabetes drugs on the market has been found to have some deadly side effects, and I have attorney David Haynes with me now to discuss those side effects. David, Invokana, a blockbuster diabetes type 2 drug, we're finding out now it has a lot of negative side effects, as often happens with some of these blockbuster drugs. Before we get into those real quick, just kind of give us an overview of what Invokana is specifically used for, as far as the diagnosis and things of that nature.
Well, this is another Johnson & Johnson product, which has become incredibly popular. They put a lot of money behind it. It is a drug to deal with the control of diabetes, which of course is a condition that millions of people have. And diabetes has a lot to do with the acid levels in the particular patient. And this is an inhibitor of some of those issues and has helped to control the diabetes issues. But what we're seeing is, again, with real safety concerns with Johnson & Johnson being raised and real very serious concerns and a lot of very serious adverse side effects for these patients where it appears that Johnson & Johnson has not properly tested this blockbuster drug before bringing it to market and putting millions and millions of dollars behind their advertising instead of more clinical trials prior to pushing it out nationwide.
And what's really interesting is that, Invokana commercials are very common on television, obviously because, type 2 diabetes is becoming more and more common these days. And so in these commercials, as we've often seen, they show the happy people once they're on the medication, they're living their lives, they're out there having fun, they're barbecuing, they're exercising. And then in the real, professional speak, they start giving all these Invokana may calls, yada, 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 yada. And that's what they do. I mean, there is a difference. The side effects are spoken at a high school grade level. The benefits of the drugs are always spoken at a grade school level. This, study after study has shown that this is the way that these drugs are marketed. And when we're talking about a drug like Invokana, we're looking at something that is causing kidney failure, heart attacks, ketoacidosis. And this is a drug that is meant to, help excrete blood sugar from the bloodstream through the kidneys. And now, those were just the first side effects we knew of. Now we're starting to see things where people are losing limbs as a result of taking this medication.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's the latest FDA advisory that's come out, is that there are a number of cases of amputation. Of course, diabetes patients can be prone to risk for amputation and loss of limb, loss of toes. A lot of times that's where it starts. So if you have a serious diabetes condition, you have to always be cognizant of that. But the information that's coming out is in this recent clinical trial test, which the FDA has issued an advisory about and said that they're going to be checking into further, is that the Invokana drug is greatly increasing the propensity for these types of amputations. So first, this is how the pattern for a lot of these drugs, unfortunately, is played out, is it just information keeps on seeping out about some of the concerns here. First starting with heart attack, stroke, bone fracture, and things like that. Last year, those were the advisories that are coming out, and now more recently, the amputation risk. So the issue is that with a lot of these drugs, there are side effects, of course, but the issue is whether the manufacturer, in this case Johnson & Johnson, have properly warned about the potential side effects so that the physician and the patient can make an educated decision about whether or not the drug's pros outweigh the potential cons and the risk. And Johnson & Johnson has not properly warned of these risks, which now are only coming out after the fact. And that is really the disconcerting thing. Johnson & Johnson, we think of it as such a household product in the baby-to-baby shower and talcum powder, which we're learning a lot about cervical cancer there, unfortunately. But it's a household name. But obviously, with the systemic problems at Johnson & Johnson, it certainly appears that advertising and profit is a primary motive here, perhaps over patient safety.
Well, you pointed out something very interesting there, and I want to expand on that just a little bit. And that's the fact that it's not that the drug or any drugs cause side effects. Even ibuprofen and Tylenol can cause side effects. A lot of it has to do with the risk-benefit analysis, the side effect of it versus what it does. But the most important thing, and this is where lawsuits come from, is what did the company know? Did they hide it? Did they properly deliver this information to physicians and patients? And it's when there is a cover-up or when they did not disclose that they face liability. It's not just because their product, isn't doing everything it says. It's because they knew it wouldn't and they hid the dangers. And I think that's something that the public needs to understand. People don't just get sued, for no reason. It's because there was a cover-up, because there was no warning.
That's correct. And the warnings, and we see the fine print and so forth, but and you wonder how much consumers really understand, as you say, with the TV commercials, or you look in the weekly periodicals and things, and you've got all this fine print, which of course goes over everyone's head. But a lot of it is education of the physicians as well. Instead, Johnson & Johnson is paying tens of millions of dollars in marketing the products for medical consultants, literally wining and dining a lot of physicians to the tune of a couple $1 million in food and beverage expenditures for this particular drug. And so they're glossing over a lot of these issues, and either they knew of the problems and they haven't given proper warnings, or they didn't do sufficient medical and clinical trials to determine what the side effects were. And so if a black box warning goes on a particular drug, studies have shown that the prescriptions of that drug may go down by about 40%. And that's what these manufacturers don't want. And so they're making, and oftentimes, unfortunately, they're making calculated decisions about whether it's better to avoid the black box warning and take their chances on the liability side and deal with the lawsuits that come as a result of the various injuries, amputation, stroke, heart attack, or death, versus having their drug, which they're talking about on their quarterly Wall Street conference calls, that this is a great, we're getting great market share in this huge patient population for diabetes. So that is the issue, is the black box warnings, appropriate warnings to the patients. The patients need to, Johnson & Johnson is a very sophisticated company. They need to be putting out all of the information that they have about these drugs so patients can make informed decisions.
As we've seen too many times, it always comes down to profits over patients. And that's why people like you, the trial lawyers, Mike Papantonio and Howard and Michael Berg, all a part of the show. That's why you guys are out there doing what you do every day to help protect American consumers. And we appreciate your work, both in the courtroom and on this show. So, David, thank you very much for talking with us today.
Thank you, Farron. It's my pleasure.
Invokana can cause total renal failure. The FDA knows that, and they're ignoring it. See the story at drugsafetynews.com.